after a much needed bye week for the Buffalo Bills and for all of us in Bills Mafia, it is good to be back on the platform and to be able to do another episode of Red, White, and Ruthless. Hello, everyone. My name is Brett McDurphy, and I am joined by my partner in crime, as always, Sean Kula of the Red, White, and Bills. And we are going to talk about the Wild, Wild West showdown between the San Francisco 49ers, who are traveling from California all the way to Western New York to play in blizzard conditions pretty much in Western New York. You've seen film all over Twitter and all over different social media platforms of the weather conditions. You know, the Buffalo is pretty much going to have all these different crews that's going to have to shovel up the snow in the stadium. It's going to be awesome. It's my favorite time of the year where you have a winter wonderland, and this is the first one that we get to see in Western New York. But Sean, man, first of all, how did you enjoy your bye week, and what are you excited about this week?
Yeah, it's always good when you win previously, and then you get to watch some teams lose, and got to enjoy our Thanksgiving, some good football games, and what you're expecting now. Obviously you heard Trent Williams is out, Nick Bosa is out, and I thought about it. I'm like, oh, that kind of sucks because you want a team at their best, but at the end of the day, they're 5-6, and even if they had all their best players and we beat them, everybody would say, "Oh, you only beat a 5-7 team." So at the end of the day, the way I think about it now is they're going to talk about the win anyway, what and how bad the Niners are. So if they don't have some of their best players, then oh well, it makes it even makes you feel even better about the game. Obviously, you still got to go play it. They still got
Yeah,
McCaffrey. They still got Purdy, but he's probably going to be hurting, and they're missing some linemen, and Pearsall's looking okay, and Jennings is probably going to play and look pretty good. But at the end of the day, we're a better football team, and we got we're hot right now, and the goal is to continue to win, and that's what you expect, especially the it's going to be cold for sure, and I'm pretty sure based on the weather reports, all the snow is going to be done before game time, so there shouldn't be any snow. But even if there was, we're more ready for that than San Francisco would be. So
yeah, yeah.
we should be looking for a good game.
Absolutely. And you look at the injury reports, number one, for the Buffalo Bills, only one player that's going to be out for this game, and that's going to be Dalton Kincaid. But you look at who the Bills have elevated from the practice squad this week. Zach Davison, again, elevated from the practice squad. And the Bills have elevated another player that has not been elevated this season in Mike White. I was kind of wondering why they would do that, number one, because we don't really need another quarterback on the roster. I feel like it's more about the inactives for the Bills this week, and maybe they're trying to figure out how to get some other guys on the roster to be able to play. That might be the condition that they're trying to roll with, but it's kind of an all hands on deck scenario for the Bills this week. But we'll see what happens, though. And like you mentioned, Sean, you mentioned some of the injuries on the 49ers. This is the week for them. I mean, they're going from a team that was a Super Bowl contender just a year ago all the way to a team that might not even make the playoffs. That's outrageously bad to think about right now. And I couldn't believe it when I was looking at the San Francisco 49ers a couple weeks ago. And I like to scout teams a couple weeks before we play them so that we kind of get an idea of what we're going to see from them. And really, I'm looking at the 49ers going, man, this is just a team that's decimated with injuries. You got Brock Purdy with the shoulder injury. You mentioned Trent Williams, even Christian McCaffrey coming back from the calf injury. You have a few other ones on the offense as well, and George Kittle, who has missed some time. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball, and Nick Bosa as well, another player that's missed some time. And in the Super Bowl, you go back to the Super Bowl, Dre Greenwald missing the rest of the game for an Achilles injury. This is a team that's just been decimated with injuries left and right. And I feel bad for them, but the scenario for the Bills is this. This is a game that you look for the Bills to win, and the Bills win the AFC East. This would be probably the earliest that the Bills have ever won the AFC East and that's exciting to think about, especially with the Dolphins losing against the Packers on Thursday. That was a great day for the Bills fans because now we can cheer for a win and we win the division. It was sad on Black Friday, obviously, when you saw the Raiders game and how it ended. The Bills could have been in first place in the AFC. Unfortunately, we're not going to be in first place because of the fumble from the Raiders, and that cost the Bills quite a bit. But this is a scenario that we're in right now. But let's get back to the 49ers game. And Sean, let's talk about this matchup, starting off of the offensive side of the ball for the Buffalo Bills, going up against the defensive side of the ball for the 49ers. I know the 49ers are going to be without Nick Bosa. That hurts them a lot. But they do have some weapons on defense that they do have. And I want to kind of focus on some of those weapons that you're worried about. Number one, especially for the offensive line of the Buffalo Bills. Give me a player or two that you feel is somebody that the Bills need to keep an eye on.
Yeah, well, Fred Warner always, but I think he's been playing injured all year. Really, I think he said he takes a big shot in his ankle before every game because he's in so much pain. So he's one of the best in the game, and he's still going out there injured, but he's going to be still making plays and being all over the football. So you got to watch out for him. And their corner Treverius Ward should be back. I'm pretty sure he lost his daughter a few weeks ago, so he's been missing obviously for personal reasons, and um, they might try to ramp him back up. And he's a very good corner. And on the defensive line, obviously Bosa's gone, and Leonard Floyd is still there. I'm not that. I never thought he was the best in the world, but he still knows he played with us last year. He might went up against our line in practice, so he might get a win or two. So gotta watch out for him.
Absolutely. And even though he's an older player, and he still had 10 sacks last year, which is incredible for a player that kind of matured late in his career. You look at what he did for the Bears, he didn't really do a lot. And then he went over to the Rams and had a couple of great seasons with the Rams. Comes over to Buffalo and makes a name for himself with Von Miller missing some time. So for me, I mean, I look at this and there's a few names, like you said, Leonard Floyd on the defensive side of the ball. This is a player that I'm looking out for. But I mean, you could talk about some of the other players that they have on defense, and I mean, there's a lot of big names that come down for them. And Malik Collins is another player, the defensive tackle that they have. That's somebody that I'm looking at for the interior of their team that you could worry about as well. And you go back a couple of years with them having Chase Young and some of the players that they've had on this defensive line. They've had a lot of big name players, and they also have a linebacker that came over from the Green Bay Packers and Devondre Campbell, another big name player there too. So John Lynch has built this team very well, and gotten this defense into a very good scenario. So can't wait to see what they bring up against the Bills. But let's turn it over to the offensive side of the ball for the 49ers. And Sean, this is the team that is missing Brandon Ayuk this week, but they do have Deebo Samuel. They have Juwan Jennings. They have George Kittle. Probably not the most healthy version of Brock Purdy, but I say this: a less than half Brock Purdy is still better than probably any quarterback that they have on their roster right now. So having him there is going to be beneficial for the 49ers. Give me a couple of matchups on the offensive side of the ball for the 49ers that you like and you're excited about.
Yeah, like I said, their offensive line's pretty banged up, so really we should be fine all over the place. Pretty sure their right guard had to get an MRI. I haven't heard or checked the injury report for them. Obviously, Trent Williams is the best, and he's out. Um, Pretty sure their left guard was already a backup because the original one got injured. But regardless, they're banged up, and you gotta, especially in these conditions, and they're not used to being in the cold or wind or whatever weather it's going to be. You got to put some pressure on, especially because Purdy, even if he does play, his throwing shoulder is hurting, and you're going to be cold. Your joints are going to freeze up, and he's not going to, he probably won't feel good. He's going to have to tough through some pain, I'm sure. And then obviously they got a lot of good talent on offense still, even with being banged up, without having Ayuk. You still got Kittle and McCaffrey, so if they just start dumping off to McCaffrey and he's getting these big runs, it could get ugly. As long as we got to be able to keep up if they do start doing that. But to be honest, McCaffrey obviously he hasn't done much since he's been back, but that just makes me think definitely make sure he doesn't do anything against us because we seem to be that team that always gives up. you know, it's like, oh, this running back hasn't had over 100 yards, and then he gets 150. Or, oh, this quarterback hasn't thrown for 300, and they throw for 400. It just seems like we always are that kind of team. So make sure McCaffrey doesn't change the game, and you know, be able to stop. I'm sure Mason might get some runs. McCaffrey, got to stop him in the run game as well, and make it hard for them to move the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at the conditions that the 49ers are going to face here. They're a team that's, like you mentioned, Sean, they're 5-6 right now. They're a team that's traveling to uncertain conditions right now in Western New York. And the Bills, they've been in this scenario before. They played in games almost, it seems like every single year since Josh Allen has been there. They play a game that's in cold weather. And this team is built for the cold weather. So you have a team that doesn't have the experience playing in cold weather versus a team that is extremely used to playing in these cold weather games. The uncertainty at quarterback for the Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers is concerning. And if Brock Purdy doesn't play this week, it would be Brandon Allen that's going to step in. He completed 17 of 29 passes for 199 yards and a touchdown, 2 turnovers last week against the Green Bay Packers. So you got to kind of look at the alarm clock for the 49ers right now and say that they're kind of in a panic mode. Another thing that I want to mention here is the Bills post bye week, their performance under head coach Sean McDermott. They are 7-0 in bye weeks with Sean McDermott at the helm. They're averaging 26.43 points per game and are allowing only 19 points per game on defense. But that's extremely good numbers that you have to think about. We also haven't mentioned a lot of the weather conditions in Western New York for Sunday. This is the latest track that is going to be in effect. They're saying that there's a severe lake effect snow that is forecasted for the Buffalo area with expectations of over a foot of snow and wind gusts up to 30 miles an hour. These conditions could significantly influence gameplay and particularly affect the passing and kicking strategies for both teams. So this is the latest scenario that we're looking at from about game time. I know game time is going to start at 8:20 on NBC. This is looking like it's going to be mostly a run game for the Buffalo Bills, in my opinion. And I feel like the bulk of the offensive line and what we built this team up for the last 12 games, or I'm sorry, 11 games that we've played so far, 12 weeks, 11 games that we played, is for this scenario. So you're going to see James Cook, you're going to see Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, all these players, the running game come into effect here. Would you agree, Sean?
Oh yeah, for sure. They're going to try to run the ball, and again, depending, you heard the real windy conditions. Again, we don't know what that's going to be like until it gets closer to game time, especially because those lake effect storms, they can shift at any moment. So
Yeah.
really be keeping an eye up, because right now it's on my phone. It says it's going to stop snowing in Orchard Park by like 1 o'clock in the morning and not snow the rest of the day on Sunday. So again, could change drastically. But yeah, you definitely want to continue to run the ball. They're going to try, as you saw in the Chiefs game, even when we couldn't run the ball, they wanted to still run it. So I'm confident that they'll continue to run. But I definitely would like to see some some Ray Davis, whether it's receiving or even Ty Johnson, get those running backs involved, especially if the weather is going to be, where it's coming down hard with snow or it's windy. Get, you know, you don't need to throw it 40 yards downfield like we usually do. Just dump it off, throw some 5 yard passes to some running backs, get to your playmakers, and just be as efficient as possible because in those kind of weather games, anything can happen.
Absolutely, and you look at the weather conditions. We've talked about that quite a bit, but also let's talk about the Bills as far as their injury report this week. You look back to the Kansas City Chiefs. Some of the players that were missing: Keon Coleman, Matt Milano missing. Spencer Brown was in there for the game. We started Ryan Vandenmark at right tackle, and he did a phenomenal job. I know that your film study is going to show that what he did, but I mean, hats off to him. You didn't even hear from him throughout the game, and when you did see him out there on the field, he was making some big plays. Going to be a free agent at the end of the year. It's going to be interesting to see if the Bills decide to keep him, or if they can keep him based off of number one, that there's going to be a lot of other teams that are going to need some offensive linemen, and I feel like he could be a starter for another team. I'm looking at the Bills right now. Number one, Coleman missing, Milano missing, Spencer Brown. You talk about some of the other players that were missing, unhealthy Amari Cooper, but did play in those scenarios. Now the Bills are going to be healthy with 2 weeks later. You have Coleman coming back into the lineup. Matt Milano has been activated off of IR, and Spencer Brown coming back from an injury. Some of the other players that are going to be coming back as well. I mean, the Bills are extremely healthy at the right time. And we look back to a couple of years ago with the Bills going towards the playoffs. And we had injuries to Tre'Davious White, Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard missed some time last year. Even more players that missed time on that team. And we didn't have Micah Hyde, unhealthy Jordan Poyer, who was aging in his time there as well. The Bills are healthy right now and ready to make a push towards the playoffs, which is going to be an incredible mark. Fifth straight AFC East that the Bills are going to most likely win this week, in my opinion. And now they're going to be looking towards a high seed in the playoffs with some home field advantage in these scenarios. And I can't wait to see what the Bills are going to do in the playoffs with finally having a healthy team with Matt Milano at the helm at linebacker, and Dorian Williams, who's playing incredible football right now too.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be nice to see him get some play time tomorrow night. It's been way too long.
Been way too long. And you look back at the broken fibula and the leg injury, then now going into training camp this season, you see him coming out of training camp with a torn bicep, missing time most of the season so far with that bicep injury. We were expecting him to come back around late December was the projection that he was coming back, and now he's back earlier than expected. He's been rehabbing, and excuse me for saying it, but he's been rehabbing his ass off, getting back to full health, and now a healthy Matt Milano, even though he does have that torn bicep, I feel like he's going to be out there and he's going to be ready to go playing in the game, even if he plays a conservative amount of time where he's just coming in on blitz packages or whatever the case may be. Matt Milano out there on the field is just going to be somebody that the 49ers are going to have to worry about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Sean, let's go into the let's go into key matchups. Number one for the 49ers. Give me a couple of matchups that you like for the Buffalo Bills. Give me two matchups on offense, two matchups on defense, two players that you can't wait to see go up against each other this week.
Well, definitely got to be, Dion against Floyd, just because we played together last year, and he's got some familiarity, so gotta love that. And then really Ward on, because Coleman might play, but we'll see. And then Cooper on Ward if Ward plays again. I don't. He hasn't been ruled out, I don't think, but it might be game time because he was active last week, but I think they chose not to play him. And then for us on defense, really AJ Epinesa, because he's going against the backup left tackle. And I said earlier, I didn't really think about it until now, even though I've always known. But usually, the left tackle is the best lineman on every team, and Greg Rousseau is always against the right tackle, and it always seems like people don't really give AJ a lot of credit because they're like, oh, he didn't really do this, or he's not consistent enough. But he's the one going against the best lineman on the team every time because they don't really swap sides. And not that Rousseau hasn't been doing good, but Epinesa is always going against the best lineman on every, the best tackle on every team. So you know, that just puts a little perspective on him as a player. Um, but yeah, AJ Epinesa and whoever the backup left tackle is, I forgot who they had out there last week. And then, really, I would say someone on McCaffrey, but you can't really tell who's going to be on him in coverage. But anyone on the Kittle, because he's like Kelsey, can always get open, good with running the football. So you got to be careful with him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to talk about this, Sean. You look at last week, or I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago when the Kansas City Chiefs played the Buffalo Bills. I know you're probably going crazy in the stadium with Jake and everything when you saw Xavier Worthy going off in that game. And when I looked at the beginning of the game, I'm like, man, if somebody could just cover Worthy, and then the Kansas City Chiefs are going to lose this game. I looked at that, and all of a sudden, I said that, and the light bulb for Sean McDermott and the defense and the adjustments that the defense made to be able to cover players and make adjustments on the fly really benefited the Buffalo Bills in those scenarios. And I look back at some of the plays from Terrell Bernard. He knew some of the plays from the Kansas City Chiefs, and he was able to change the defense and get them into the right scenarios in order to make stops for the Bills. And the halftime adjustments, the adjustments from the Bills lately have been so much better. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's attributed to the effort the players put into, as well as the coaches, and looking at tendencies, and doing what you can to one up the other team. And yeah, Bernard's been really good at baiting people into bad throws and getting
Yeah,
interceptions and just being around the football. So yeah, it's gonna be important.
absolutely. Sean, let's get into keys to the game. I know that right now we have to keep it short just because we do have another dilemma that's going to be coming into play in just a little bit. So let's do the keys to the game real quick and score predictions for the Bills. Give me some of the three keys to the game for you for the Bills.
Yeah, number one, continue to play sound, smart defense. Obviously, we're going to give up some yards, but we really buckle down in the red zone. We're a very good red zone defense, so keep them out of the end zone. Obviously, it's always got to be both sides of the trench. And if the weather's horrible, play calling's even more important because you'd like to really get those slants and crossers going, but if it's windy and it takes the wrong trajectory, it could just airmail and you know be intercepted. So we gotta play how the weather dictates you to play.
Yeah,
If you gotta do short passes the entire game, cool. If you got the wind to your back, take some deep shots, but you gotta really see what the weather's going to be like, and play calling is going to be important.
absolutely.
Oh, and
Um,
tackling. I know it's four, but it goes back to the sound defense. You saw Miami in the cold miss 20 tackles. Obviously, we
yeah,
don't really miss, tackles consistently like that. But when the weather's changing, snow on the ground, you've seen it before. Everyone's a little bit slower, and
Yep.
you gotta get your feet right and make sure you're wrapping up. And also too, it also plays into effect when you're on offense because the receiver always has the advantage even when it's nice out because you know what you're going to run, the corner doesn't.
Yep.
Especially if there's snow on the ground and it's hard to get footing, we might actually get some players slipping down, and you just got to hit the guy that's open.
Yeah, absolutely, Sean. And you got to remember the Highmark Stadium doesn't have any heating underneath the stadium, so that hurts Buffalo quite a bit. And I remember back a couple of years ago when they put the rubber pellets out there on the field, and that was a disaster because they put too much on the field. I don't know if you remember this, Sean, but they had to delay the game a little bit because of it. That's something that I'm thinking about here for the Bills, and I mean I don't want to see that obviously, but when you look at the new stadium, what they're going to do, they have to put some heat underneath the stadium, especially when you do have an open air stadium in Buffalo. So for me, some of the keys to the game, obviously, I've mentioned it before, but the penalties for the Bills. We look at the penalties that have happened from the right tackle and left tackle and Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown. We got to eliminate stupid penalties. That's been hurting us so much. Number two is just I want to see the Bills establish the run and dominate with their offensive line. Sean, the Bills have done an incredible job with their offensive line this season between some of the players that aren't getting a lot of talk and Osiris Torrance, who has been incredible, and Connor McGovern switching over from left guard to center. It's been an incredible jump for him, and he's playing really good football right now, too. I want to see the Bills make another push towards dominating the line of scrimmage this week against the 49ers team that's a little bit banged up right now. So that's number two. And number three comes down to just play calling and execution from the coaching staff. This is something that I've looked at the past couple of games where you've seen Matt Eberflus, you've seen Antonio Pierce in these scenarios where, man, some questionable play calling. I want to see good play calling from the Bills all the way around so that we can get a win and take over the AFC East for a fifth straight year and take home the AFC East. That would be great to see too. So, Sean, let's drop the score predictions real quick. I know I've mentioned in the chat, make sure you drop your score predictions in the comments below. We greatly appreciate those. But, Sean, give me a score prediction. You don't have to give me necessarily the exact score, but how many points do you feel like the Bills are going to win by?
Yeah, well, I don't give scores at all, but I think we'll score a good amount, and Josh obviously is right about to break Jim Kelly's total touchdown record, so I think we'll see that for sure. And anticipating us winning this game because obviously I did it on our prediction show for our weekly picks, so I can say that. But I'm keeping the good luck going of not giving score predictions. But obviously, I think we'll win the game, and Josh will make history and be the you know leading quarterback for most touchdowns in franchise history, which would be really cool. And then, like you said, hopefully we can. I mean, we're gonna win the division regardless, but if we can wrap it up now, that's really cool. And then you can focus on getting the one seed because obviously you mentioned McDermott's success 7-0 after the bye. So if that's the case, and even if you lost and you're 7-1, that's still great odds, right? So wouldn't we always want the goal to be get the one seed because that's basically guaranteed a AFC Championship appearance. If you're 7-1 or 8-0 off a bye, then you get a bye to go into the playoffs. You skip the wild card, you win the divisional because you're coming off a bye, then you go to the championship. So the focus should definitely be uh, getting that one seed.
Yeah. And you look at things right now. If the Raiders would have won, the Bills would be the number one seed right now. We would be happy as can be. I was thrilled on Black Friday. I'm watching the Raiders go down the field, and all of a sudden, a number one stupid penalty for illegal formation, and you had a fumble on the play. Kansas City wins. They kneel it. go into the locker room, and they're the number one seed in the AFC East right now. Or I'm sorry, in the AFC right now. So I was happy all week. I was looking forward to things, and I was going to come on the show all excited and everything that we were going to have the potential to stay the number one seed and have home field advantage in Western New York this year. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So
Well, we'll see. It's possible.
it's still possible, yeah. But
We got to do
Sean,
our part too.
yeah. Sean, thank you so much, man, for joining me tonight on Red, White, and Ruthless. Don't forget to like and subscribe, comment on all of social media. You know where to find Nickel City Mafia, but you can also find Sean and his offensive line film on his platform on YouTube. You can find it on Red, White, and Bills. He's doing an incredible job, number one, with his offensive line film, and as well as his weekly picks show, where you can find both of us on there. That's a syndicated show that we do, so you'll be able to see that after we recorded it. But you can also find me on Go Bills Podcast on YouTube as well as on Instagram. So if you're looking for more content between the three of us, we have plenty of content. Also, I want to mention that Jake and Mike are going to be coming back for Wednesday night shows for the rest of the season. So I want to give you guys a little bit of breaking news that we do have from the owner of Nickel City Mafia in Mike Fortin himself. He has mentioned that he is going to be coming back for Wednesday night shows, and we are excited for that. But let's get a victory on Sunday and wrap up the AFC East and take home a victory. It's going to be a late show for the Nickel City Rush Hour. Don't know whether or not they're going to do it, but we will keep you posted as soon as we find out. For Sean Kula, I am Brett McDurphy. We will see you next time for another edition of Red, White, and Ruthless. Until then, go Bills.
Go Bills.